All right. You want to do it?
No, we're good. I mean, we're just here for another episode. We're just churning along here and really enjoying the process. This is kind of one of those unique times of the year where between the third and fourth event this year, there's like a multi-month break, so it's almost a bigger break than we have in the off season. So I think that's kind of interesting. There's not necessarily a ton happening, but there's enough happening where we can touch on things and touch on mentality of what it's like to have big breaks like that, and how you don't want to, revert back to the beginnings. You want to continue building what you're doing, and when you don't have a team that lives close together, I think there's some nuances there that we can kind of delve into. But just excited to be able to spend a little more time with you, Hal, and more time with the people that are taking time out of their day to listen to us chit chat.
Heck yeah, man. Couldn't have said it better myself. Yeah, this is I would say, the weirdest part of the season. It's just strange. You have that long stretch. And like you said, middle of November to middle of March, I mean, that's your off season, and it's just as much of a break,
Yep.
So it's kind of interesting. This is where I wish they still had the open stuff, a few of the true open events that you don't have to go. It's not the major,
Mm-hmm.
But what's funny, come to think about it, there's people coming into paintball that may not even realize that NXL had that.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, the NXL didn't have it for that long, so I agree that was something that was good in these instances. I think sometimes those events almost felt mandatory. I'm not saying that they shouldn't, but if FOMO at the very least, if other people are doing it, you're going to want to do it, which is good, which is why I like having more events. There's years where the league only had 4 events, which wasn't good. There was times they had 6 events. I liked it more. And I'm talking back to the, early NXL, the PSP, before this new rendition. It's been 5 events, except for the years that they had those open events since the inception. But I mean, it's different now than it used to be too, because a lot of people that have come in now don't realize how many different leagues we used to play. So, 5 tournaments spread out, or 6 tournaments spread out across the year, but we're playing in 3 different leagues. So even if there was a 2-month break built in, a 2.5-month break, you're playing in 2 other leagues, practicing for those leagues, and that made that break non-existent in a way. So it's just one thing to another, and now these breaks really set in, and they can be a positive and a negative. I think that you don't want to be complacent at these times. These are times where instead of just oh, the last event's gone, the next event we're working on, we're learning a new field layout, we're trying to go into this next event and win, and just always stay in that same mental acuity that you're dealing with, and always working like that. It's taxing sometimes. So sometimes these breaks are good for a reset, but also they give you a chance to kind of breathe and work on things that you need to, whether it's mental, physical, recovery, or just team Latin aspects too. So it could be individual or team aspects, but these breaks give people that are willing to be introspective and willing to work on the issues, or at least try to better themselves. These breaks give you a chance to really dissect them and figure out what you personally need to do and what you need to do as a team to really come back stronger in that 2.5 months.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's
I don't know what just happened, but I think your AC is ripping right now.
Is it?
Yeah, I don't know what changed.
Sorry about that, guys.
No, you're good. You're good. We want you to be comfortable.
I do run hot.
Yeah, you and me both.
Yeah, dude, I run so hot. Yeah, I think you hit on a few really good points. There was benefits of having those other tournaments that weren't mandatory, right? One of those tournaments, for anyone that doesn't know, one of the actual open tournaments, the best out of the ones you've played, what was there? There was 3, wasn't there? I think there was 3, usually.
I mean, I can only I can't think of that many. There, if you're talking about when they had like the optional tournaments that you only had to play one of in the year, there was just two that I can remember: the Dallas one and the Sacramento one. It was a really short-lived experience that we did that.
Yeah, the Golden State or whatever it was out in Cali. Yeah.
Up at Davis Field, which shout out to him and shout out to anyone in the Northern California, Sacramento area.
Yeah.
His field's awesome. His family's awesome. And you should definitely go out there.
Yeah. Check it out, guys. But, there was benefits because there's more bonding time with the team. There's more playing. And if you have that where you're like, okay, we have this, it's more time for anyone that's newer on your team to get in more spins. And it's not as it's still a stressful environment.
It's experience-laden benefits. It's more time on the field in do or die situations, which are hard to recreate in practice because no matter what 100%. You say, it's the tournament's the only time where it's like, oh, I lose this game, I'm unscrewing my tank and we're going home. And that's something that Ryan Smith has honestly worked with us a lot this year, and everyone on our team, well, a lot of us on the team have a ton of experience, and there's some newer guys too. But no matter who, like, all have enough experience to know that, when you get knocked out in an event, whether that's on a Sunday in third place or sixth place or on a Saturday not making the cut, it's like one of the worst sounds in the world is, unscrewing your tank and hearing the air, or like, taking your bolt out, releasing the air from your tank so you can unscrew it and fly home. Like, that sounds bad for 19 pro teams in an event, and it's a gut-wrenching sound because it's a sound of failure, and that's what's associated to it in our minds. And it's hard to recreate that in practice. So what Ryan Smith's done a lot of times is, we'll play on Sundays and it's like, oh, if we lose, we're done for the day. And that's not like, oh, hey, you guys get to leave. Like, practice is over, you get to relax. No, it's like you failed. Like, this was it. Like, if you wanted to keep playing, you had to win that. And I like that because it adds that some semblance of that pressure on a normal practice day that you can't get. It's that tournament aspect of it because, if we do that and don't, get to keep playing, get to keep practicing, not only are we hindering ourselves going forward, but we also, have to deal with that, like, feeling inside, knowing that we failed, knowing that, the next day is going to be that much harder, knowing that we have to fix a lot of things and we hurt ourselves. So, it's like that missed practice time sometimes you would think is a negative, but really it can be a positive because it teaches you, like, to do whatever you need to do to not be in that circumstance again. And I mean, like, there was a time where, we weren't leaving after we're done playing, but we lost a Sunday match in practice. Sometimes, we're just scrimmaging, we're just ripping out 30, 40 points, talking, maybe halfway through, doing things like that. But other times, once it gets later in a practice weekend, we start, like, doing at least simulated matches, whether they're full matches or 8-minute matches, whatever they are, so that we can get into more situations and deal with more the nuances of the actual how the game's breaking out. And this year there was a couple times where we lost one of those games, a 1-point game on a Sunday, and he brought us all together, and you're expected to get not reprimanded, but at least hear where you failed and where you can improve and how you need to do better as a team. And he basically just told us to he had Sam's gun in his hand, I think, and he's just like, hey, everyone shut up. And he just popped the air and it drained.
And he said, he goes, I was there for that. I was there for that one at Wastelands. And he goes, anybody want to hold it? He's like, anybody?
Yeah.
And it's like, that's what a coach has got to do, right?
Yeah,
like,
it's replicate those moments. It's replicating the feeling, trying to break a pattern. It's feeling how to get really coaching's. It's sociology, it's psychiatry. It's knowing how to get a visceral response out of a team, and everyone's emotions and everyone's mentality is different. So how to what do you have to say to get, like, that response that you need for them to get better? And that hurt, I hated being
but
in that meeting, but like it was effective. And like
yeah,
those kind of things I really appreciate that he's done this year. And those are the things that I think like missing those open tournaments or missing having multiple leagues, you don't get that same amount of on-field real tournament experience when you're building a new team. So you have to create that in other ways. And that's one way to do it. And these long breaks, give you the opportunity to create that however you need to fix whatever problems your team's having. And, we're going to spend time having a couple off weekend practices where, we can work on different things, but like every team's different. You don't have to go into the nuances of what every team has to change, but we'll use that time to recover and be 100% healthy, but also to always, like I said, always have forethought, always be looking forward, not be complacent, not take a step back, not just put pause on something, right? You need to continually better yourself, whether you're at a team practice or you're practicing by yourself or doing something else that keeps you. But the important thing is always having that same goal in your mind, knowing that you have to be working towards that. And whether you're out there playing 10-man tournaments, having a day off playing rec ball, just doing drills, spending family time together some weekends, taking an off weekend to really involve yourself with your friends and your family and, fill that battery up in a sense is just as important too, because these are the times where you get that chance to do that. And sometimes that reset, allows you to come back and even focus that much more of your energy and fully go all in on something.
Yeah. And I agree 100%. And I want to chime in how much Bird has done this year. He has done what can I do to replicate that feeling of losing on Sunday?
Yeah, because
I'm going to pull that.
Before you go on, if you don't figure out a way to replicate that, then you only have 5 opportunities a year,
Yeah, exactly.
5 15-minute games a year. So you're talking, 75 minutes in an entire year.
A year. That's wild, right? That is your professional career. You break it down.
And really it's like 75, I could say, but really it's like when you're a good team, like the last 5 minutes are the consequential ones. Not saying that the others aren't, but 100%. They're coming down to that. So now we're talking 25 minutes in a year in something that we're putting, thousands of hours into. Those 25 minutes make or break your season, make or break your career in some sense, make or break your place in the sport, whether you're going to be able to stay on the team, whether there's going to be moving pieces. And it's hard to replicate that. So I do appreciate the things Bird has done. He's not always the most outspoken person, but like he cares and he tries to think of, unique ways to fix problems or at least recreate the situation so that we can have more experience and be more comfortable when it presents itself again.
Yeah. And so you just grasp, whether it's practice or on the field, right? You grasp what's going on. I think it's very important to have someone that's in touch with the team. And this is what I really appreciate about Bird. He's been on this team. He was a player.
Yeah, and don't ask him because he'd downplay himself, but 100%. He's a phenomenal player in his own right.
I loved watching him play. Loved watching him play.
You love watching us all play, huh?
I do, but it's because I love y'all. But to rewind that, I loved watching y'all play before I was a part of the brotherhood, before I was a part of the family, the organization. Like, that's what got me here, is I just had a driving passion for y'all. You were one of my favorite players. Like, watching you get down and get dirty well before I knew you. And what was funny was whenever I came about, I felt like, I stood off to the side. I didn't say much, which is, if you know me, you're like, if you know that now about me, you're like, if Hal's quiet, something's wrong. But I stood off to the side and I kind of, helped where I could and figured it out. But like,
you might not be wrong, but you're not necessarily comfortable in the situation yet. You want to get a feel for what's going on around you. You're very aware of your environment, and you like to get a grasp of like people's true selves or dangers or things are around you.
100%. But what's funny is I do the same thing when I go into a new job. I try and be quiet, somewhat reserved, and I watch everybody, right? I'm looking at everyone. And it's just part of my analytical side, like where I people watch, I study someone.
Yeah, there's different types of people, and you can learn so much from doing that.
You can. You're like, where am I going to be too much for this person? What's going to be comfortable? And, I guess our friendship kind of started. You were rooming with Chad. Chad was like, yeah, come down, watch games. And you and I just clicked, hit it off. And I was like, dude, not only is this one of my favorite players, I was like, this dude's the shit. I was like, dude, he's real. He gets it. He's got my same sense of humor. And I was just like, and then our friendship blossomed and grew. And now we're here, and I couldn't thank you more for that. And it's funny how, I got to where I was, and I'm not going to go on a tangent, but I started talking to Ronnie, and yeah, got me in the pits in Texas. I so happened to be in Texas seeing family on a fishing trip. And I didn't think our friendship would wind up here. So I think that's a really, like, you just never know where life's going to take you. And it's such a beautiful journey if you give up the reins and let life take you for a ride, because it's a great roller coaster.
Yeah. And be willing to be open and just, be kind of vulnerable in different situations, because you 100%. Never know who you'll click with and who you'll end up being lifelong friends with.
100%. And so, that was a really fun, amazing thing that I completely was not expecting. I would have never guessed in 3.5 years I would be here. Right. So, giving you your flowers, like, super, super grateful. But, back to the paintball side of things.
I guess back to the bird side, because I'd like to say a little more about that. Because
100%.
He was such a unique player. Like you said, you enjoyed watching him play. I did too, because on the field, he was pretty fearless. But man, like, I don't know too many good players that aren't extremely confident in themselves. And I'm not saying that he wasn't, but he always downplays things. He's the first person to be like, oh, I'm not this, I'm not that, I'm not this person. Like, I guess I'll try. But like, man, he would get out there and do it. And
he was that.
And that's just part of it. And maybe that's just what motivated himself more, kind of cutting himself down to prove that wrong, or to see other people's reactions and to get something to give yourself motivation. I don't know. But he's a unique competitor in that sense, where he was the least cocky paintball player that I've ever met, or athlete in general that I've ever met.
Yeah.
Humble, down to earth about things.
Yeah.
Almost too much. And it's like, man, like, how can you be good without that edge? But it just goes to prove, like, you can be good as long as you figure out what gives you the drive. If you have the skill set and you put in the effort and you have the innate ability, then all you have to do is figure out what fuel you need to like, burn your fire. Like, right? Like,
yeah.
If you have a diesel, you need to put diesel in it. If you have gas, you need gas in it.
Right.
If you have an electric car, you need a charged battery. It's like everyone needs something different. So like, you have all the other tangibles. You need to figure out what intangibly can drive you. And he was one of the unique athletes in that way, where it's like his persona and his attitude off the field, I don't think reflected how he played on it at all. And I think that's unique to me. Like, and I find that interesting.
100%. even as a coach, what's funny was even when I was about helping in the pits, I didn't really talk to Bird much, right? Like it was an interesting thing. He was very quiet. He is humble in a sense, he is, and I will say that because there was times I'd be like, when he first started coaching, I was like, "Hey, great job, man." He's like, "Man, I'm not doing anything," and I'm like, "But you are." But it's like that's Bird though, right?
And it's
He
funny because
downplays it.
he can be humble, he can downplay it. And like before the new guys, he was, the youngest person on our team, but still in the leadership role, to, stepping aside from playing to become the coach. And that humble, tentative personality doesn't always fit, but he's a leader in his own way too.
Yep.
And he doesn't try to, fake what that is. He is what that is. He's there for you. He's a friend guy. He'll get personal with you. He's a person that you also don't need the constant, conversation with necessarily. Like if I'm in a room with him, like silence is okay because you're comfortable around each other.
Yeah.
And that kind of thing is just as important.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of rare, but really, like I said, he was the youngest person on our team, and he didn't have that like alpha male personality as an athlete. But man, that dude has his own dad voice too, and when he needs to get a point across, he has no problem, speaking up and raising his tone and putting people in place, no matter what their tenure is in paintball or on the team or their status is or what people around them are saying. Like when he sees a problem, he'll jump head in and fix it. So, I think it's been great. I really enjoyed the time. The first go around when he was coaching our team, when we won the back-to-back World Cups.
2018, 2019.
And that was kind of unique because obviously we're all younger then, but him much more so as a coach of an established team. Yeah. And he was a lot the same person he is now, but like when he wanted something, he made sure to get it and get his point across. But also he gave us a lot of freedom to, feel comfortable in the plays we were running and then the spots we were going. And calling audibles and trusting our judgment because we were the ones out there in the field. And as a player that had, just stepped away, he knew all of that. Like when a coach gives you that responsibility and that freedom, what benefits that you can reap the entire team. And that was what he learned then. And then, he went back to playing for a little bit and now he's our coach again. And, he's taking some of that, but also learning the ways that the game has changed and slowed down and, making us play in, varying styles. And at the last event, like I said, like we played a much slower game, but we're becoming very proficient in it. And when we become even better and closer knit as a team and learn how to turn that on and off switch off for being aggressive or being defensive and can do both at a, an A+ level, we're going to be very dangerous. And that's the thing, he's taken a more controlled approach to it, but still knowing what players need to excel and allowing them to excel at that.
100%.
So I think every time you step away from coaching and go back, there's always a relearning curve in a sense. And it's always going to take a little time before you're comfortable in that spot again. And the players are comfortable, having you in that spot again and learning what exact system that you want to implement and how that you're doing it for each other. But once that happens, it becomes easy again.
Right. I agree 100%. Circle back to the NXL, right? Like we're going back to when they had the opens. Now we're talking about the other side of things that you made a great point. Now you have extra time between now and, between the third and fourth event. You have players that can recover. Maybe they have an irritating injury or something going on. You have time to recover before the last two events, which are, you know where you're standing, you know what's crucial and important. And so now you can have that time to focus, heal, recenter, PT, whatever you need to do. So I see the light on both sides, right? But part of me wishes, if you have a player that needs to heal and the Open's coming up, you know, you can always sit someone and
Of
let
course you can,
someone
but
have
that's
to
tricky.
step
That's
up. I know.
so
I know.
player dependent though, right? Like
I get it.
I can only
But
speak from a personal experience thing, and I'm so stubborn. There's like 0% chance unless I was seriously injured and I
oh,
knew I
you
was gonna
know.
mess it up. But that's what I'm saying. So I have a hard time seeing the other side of that, you know, like because I've never been in any sport that I've ever played in my entire life been able to be like, oh, like I can physically walk, a bone's not sticking out of my leg. Like I'm gonna finish this.
Yeah, but you know, it still gives an opportunity for someone to step up and say, "Hey, you got to step up. This person A is recovering. You have to show up, right?"
Yep.
But it puts them in that situation
Yep.
that also can excel that person, right?
I
So,
agree. It could truncate a learning process, but I struggle with that a little bit because I like people being able to break through without that, in a sense, if that makes sense. Like
I
I
know.
get like you look at professional football and like you see an injury and then someone come in. They always say like you shouldn't lose your job to an injury, but it happens sometimes because someone comes in and they do step up and they do play that well. But I do think there's something to be said for having to break through that without just being handed the opportunity. Like you have to, because you almost have to be better than the person who's in front of you, right?
Yeah.
And you have to work so hard to be better. And when you finally get put in that way, you're like, no, not only am I here, but I already earned it. Now I'm going to show people what I earned.
Yeah.
But
100%.
it's two sides of the same coin, like you said. There's pluses and minuses, and for some
Yeah.
people it would work out either way, and for some people it would work out neither way.
Right. And I agree. Whether those opens become a real life practice, right? You can take it two ways. They become a true practice for a major, right? Because you're putting yourself in that position to, we play as good as we can or we don't, and the consequence shows up Sunday. Or, it's like, or you have your off weeks where you hold your practice, and like you said, it's hard to replicate the real thing. I think it's a great true form of practice. So that's what I think I enjoyed about it, right? You're like, you take your best one, it adds to the points at World Cup, right? But that means there's another one. You obviously want to go out and do your best every time.
It gives you a little more leeway to gamble a little more.
Yeah,
I
and
guess
you can,
I'll say that.
and that's what I'm trying to say is like you can learn a lot more by two that aren't absolutely mission critical. So that's kind of where I really enjoyed that because I feel like a team can really find themselves.
And I don't
So
disagree with you. It's just the way my mind works. If I'm competing in something, like I can't
100%,
take it. I can't take it as this doesn't matter as much, right? Like even when
100%.
it's like at a practice, like we're playing points, like I obviously want to win the point. I'm doing everything I can to win a point. We're playing
Yes.
a game. Like if I lose that game, I feel like I lost at a tournament. I'm playing a tournament, it's the same thing. Like it goes back to like I could be playing tennis with my wife, not keeping score, but the score is constantly being kept in my head. And it's my
Yeah.
brain's worked like that since a young age. It's like
Right.
I've always known the scores of everything and everything I've ever done as it's happening because because I care about winning, because I set that benchmark for myself. So it's like, I get that those aren't as important and you have a little more leeway, but like I kind of approach those the same way, and I approach practice the same way. I try to approach every point I ever play the same way, even if I'm playing against lower divisional players at a local field, because I just want to win, and I think winning is easy to maintain, and losing wants to be replicated, right? Like no matter what you do in any sense, and like habits are hard to break too. So like if you're playing against worse people or in a situation that doesn't matter and you're kind of goofing around, like that ends up showing up on the field in an important point that matters, and you end up losing because the margins are so thin. So I try to take every time that I step onto a field or into a ring as like, no, this matters, whether it's training or a tournament situation. So I try not to separate those. The only differences are the consequences to them and the feelings you have afterwards. But in the moment, like I really don't feel a difference.
100%. And I get it, but that's being a competitor. That's being a fierce competitor, right? Like, I mean, I get it, but I thought there was just a lot of benefit to having those 2 extra events, right? Like, so
yeah. Well, I would like it more if like, we didn't call them optional events, for the pro teams. I think,
mandatory
down, you could be different. So instead of having like an open tournament or whatever you want to call, make us play 7 tournaments a year and you only count 6. I'm okay with that, because now you're not saying any one tournament isn't as important. You're just saying, hey, go out there and risk it a little more, because if you fail because you're risking it, we're going to drop that lowest score. But when you risk things, your reward's always a little higher, but your downside's always higher too. So maybe 100%. That would be good. Maybe just having more tournaments where you can drop some of the low ones and only keep your best ones, but they're all mandatory. I would like that more.
Yeah, 100%.
Because I also feel like, selfishly in the same way, like I feel like sometimes when people won those opens or the invitationals, it's like, or like even like the 3-man thing we did before the last event, or the weird buzzer thing we did before Cup a couple years ago. It's like, those are tournaments, but when people won them, you didn't really treat them like winners, and that's not really fair either. So it's, to me, it's like I want everything we do to be considered and treated with so much respect and brevity and effort, that whoever wins, gets that accomplishment of winning, instead of being like, oh, that doesn't matter. And I don't know how you do that, but I think that's critical, because if like winners aren't, praised, and you don't feel the accomplishment of winning that, then you don't reap those benefits. And I don't mean like having flowers getting thrown at you or anything like that, but I mean like the mental benefits that you get from feeling accomplished, from feeling, unbeatable, indomitable, to have that, chip on your shoulder the next time you go out. And like I would look at it like that weird buzzer when we played a World Cup, like New York Extreme won that. And then like the next year they get relegated, like, and they've never won like a pro tournament. And if you ask any established pro, everyone say they never won a pro tournament. But I wish that people cared enough about those exhibitions that would have been counted as a pro tournament.
It says something, right?
It does.
Like, it says something. And so
it says a couple things. It says that, I don't think enough teams take those things seriously. And it says that, you also can't put onus on what other people say about you. You have to have that belief in yourself, because no matter what, you want a competition. So figure out how to take the pluses out of that and expand upon them, and not, lose that edge that you should have gained from doing it.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
I guess speaking about random events like that, in the middle of August, there is going to be a live ESPN event. I believe they're going to be doing it at the Wide World of Sports. I'm not sure. There's a couple of ways they were going to do it. I think that's why they did the 3-man exhibition going into the last event. I'm only speaking things that are public knowledge more or less at this point, but it's going to be a 3-man event. I know a few of the networks, including Disney, wanted something that was a little easier to explain, faster, whatever. So they're going to do a 3-man event. They were deciding a couple ways to do it because it's going to be live, you know? so not post-produced, nothing like that. So it was limited in the amount of teams you could do it. They're going to have 4 teams there. They're stuck with certain, you know, TV blocks. So format and stuff had to be tweaked. So I think they were always leaning towards doing the 3-man, and that's what it's going to be. They were deciding between doing the top 4 teams or doing like a Nations Cup type of thing. They decided to go with the top 4 teams, and I think that's fine. I'm a little disappointed because I think if you're trying to just gain like random people's attention, I think it's so much easier to, you know, root for a country. So I wish they had done the Nations Cup, you know, and the Pro NXL Major League Paintball is, you know, represented by plenty of countries now, but more or less like easily can make a top 4 between, you know, Russia, France, or if you did Europe as a continent, Canada, America, you know, you have those 4 teams. I think now if you have that live event, it's easier. The 3-man's easily digestible regardless, but this is more entertaining for people and easier to root for is a country, right? If you don't know a sport, like, you know, I could turn on the Olympics and curling could be on or something else. Like, I'm going to root for America.
Yeah.
But if it was just like, oh, Steve and Carol are playing Bill and Gene, I'd be like, well, I don't know who I want to win. And I feel like that's a little more what they did by going with the top 4 teams. And I'm not saying that because we're not in the top 4 right now, because, you know, there's no guarantee that who would have got picked regardless how they did it, you know, especially in a 3-man format where you might have 40 minutes of airtime, right?
Yeah.
But I just think for the benefit of the whole sport, I think it would have been more entertaining as a Nations Cup. And I think that could show sports across the board. Like if you look at hockey, when they did, you know, the one earlier in the year, and there's, you know, political sides to things happening too. But when like Canada and the USA played, and, you know, they had a few fights in the opening puck drop, it's like that got national news coverage. A normal game, Edmonton versus Pittsburgh Penguins, wouldn't have. So I look at it in that light. But I'm still very excited. Live paintball is going to be on TV. I think that gives us an opportunity to show how actually exciting it is, how to tweak it, show how athletic our players are, and, you know, to give people, I assume if it's live, you know, it's going to be at a good time. I think it's cool to have them getting more and more interested in it. Obviously, it's grown from last year to this year, and now they want separate events and doing things. It's only a plus. I just think to get more eyes on it and more care for it, I wish that it would have been the Nations Cup. And, you know, 100%. I said the same thing, like, you know, when COVID first started, is we had a real opportunity to grow paintball by just running events and letting them be televised. Because when all the other sports were shut down, like, TV stations were just dying for stuff to put on there. And if you still want the dream to be TV, that was a really missed opportunity in my book, you know.
100%.
Run events. Most of the people in the paintball industry make it be optional, you know. But like I know a lot of people who weren't vaxxed, who were still living life. Then let people do what they want, like do what the UFC did and grew a ton during that time, because they were the only sporting event running events at that time. And we could have, we're already a traveling circus, so we could have, you know, ran it wherever they would have had us, whether it was Florida or Ireland somewhere, or done whatever, and we could have done events there. And I think we could have had TV time that actually mattered more. Now I want it all. Like, yes, I want, you know, live TV events on ESPN. I would love it if people talked about it on SportsCenter. But I mean, we need to be streaming more things. We need to be on, you know, Twitch, on live stories. We need to have it out there in any way that people can possibly watch it. That's 100%. What I want. We can't be, you know, vested in or headstrong about one way that paintball can succeed. So
100%. No, I agree. COVID was a missed opportunity. By the way, if you didn't fly during COVID, and if you did flying during COVID
was the best.
Was the sickest.
Was the best.
It was you and maybe 5 other people, and it was the best flight because you had all the room. No one else was there. I mean, what? I flew.
There's a couple nervous times flying during COVID, though. And it was always getting off the plane during that weird time block where they would still temp check you and turn you around if you didn't. But it's like, you would just fly me back. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, you just gonna put me back on the plane? Like, let me out of here.
I remember the one time I flew and I was fine, but I fell asleep on the plane. I had an early flight to go flying into Montana. And I woke up and I was like, oh, I feel a little fluey. Not good. And I'm getting off and getting temperature. And they're like, oh, you're good to go. I was like, perfect.
I'm like, hell yeah, I'm good to go. I know.
Sweating bullets before that. Like, I do not want to have to go back home and miss this trip.
Yeah, you're like,
But yeah,
you flying into awesome Yellowstone?
Fun. Yeah.
Yeah, you were going to Yellowstone then. Mm-hmm. Dude, I would have killed. Yellowstone is my favorite place in the U.S.
It's amazing, and it's one of my favorite places in the U.S. The U.S. is so diverse in its landscape that it's hard to say, but it's one of the most unique places I've been to in the world. Like, you don't have to visit the U.S. It's kind of
It's got everything. It's got everything.
Not only does it have everything, it has everything in a unique way, in an almost alien way. You know what I mean? Like the colors of things and the formations of things. It has everything, but it has it kind of all a little extra, a few extra sprinkles on top of it.
Dude, I know. And if our viewers have never been to Yellowstone, I implore you to go. I
implore you to explore all of our national parks, because that's one of the 100%. Best things America has is we've set aside a lot of crazy unique places for us,
protected,
and they're protected, and you should be going to them, because whether it's Yosemite or Yellowstone or your local state parks or whatever, there's a lot of really cool places that you should be experiencing.
Well, and what I was going to say about Yellowstone, I have traveled the world on someone else's dime. I've gotten to go see amazing places that most people will never get to see. And, I've been to Austria, I've been to Norway, I've been to Sweden, I've been to Thailand.
The fjords in Norway are pretty amazing in their own right.
Getting to jump those fjords.
Yeah. Dude. I hung off them, and it was probably a little dangerous around the edges. I never got to jump off them.
I've got to hop off those 3,000-foot cliffs. You're like,
we talked 3,000-foot cliffs. They're sheer vertical drops. You can
take so this is going to be a lot of people won't understand. You can take a head down formation. So you leave standing upright, your buddies hop off, and you literally immediately adjust your body to go head down, right? Mm-hmm. In a group, and you fly a formation, and you're taking docks. So docks is like whenever you turn, spin 180, 360, re-dock, grab each other's hands. And then, so you're doing all this crazy shit, but you have the time and the clearance. And it's not just sheer vertical. We're talking about overhang. Where you jump off is more forward than the baseline that you're falling down. So the fjords in Norway are
and down into the milkiest light blue, sky blue water.
Dude, wild. It's wild. And so I've been to those places, and I can honestly say Yellowstone is probably my favorite place in the world.
Yeah.
Because it's so diverse. you go to one area and it's
the
like
diversity is hard to match, and the animal life's hard to match. There's no doubt about that.
No, 100%. Like you're in the plains in one area, then you
feel
go
like
into
you're in
the
a different
mountains.
time in some aspects, you know?
Yes, and it's like, and I'll tell you about this in a second, but you're in the plains in one area, and then you're in the high desert mountain in one area, and then you go to another area that you will never be in unless you go to Yellowstone, which is all the thermals, the pots, the mud
especially
pots,
when you're talking about like the Grand Prismatic Spring, like the colors and the size of that thing is kind of incredible. And that's why I feel incredibly lucky to go to that during COVID, because
I'm jealous.
When things are cool, people go to them, right? But when you go during times like that, like, there was no tour buses there, there was no visitors there. We had all these places to ourselves, and that was a different, unique experience. And like 100%. You said, like Yellowstone holds a special place in my heart. And honestly, like that trip's kind of bittersweet to me, because Tim was supposed to go on that trip with us as well, and
rest his soul.
He came down with COVID and started feeling sick, the day before, and didn't fly out with us. And, ended up never seeing him again because he passed, on the day we came back. Yeah. And I wish he was there on that trip with us, because like me and him had planned it together with Chad and my wife. And it was supposed to be a trip for all of us, but doesn't take anything away from the rest of the trip I had. And it was almost more special in that aspect, because it was like my last memory of him without him being there, but still knowing that it was like the last thing that I really had planned with him.
You lived it for him.
Yeah.
You lived it for him.
Without knowing it at the time,
Yeah. Which makes it even more special.
Yeah. Yeah.
And go ahead.
But I will say, like, that place is amazing, but there are so many more, like so many amazing places, maybe not with the diversity of there, but like, for me, like another places that matches, at least it's awe-inspiring, and it's almost like ability to transform you somewhere else, is like, going to the redwoods in Northern California and stuff, and seeing those giant sequoias. And like when I remember going there for my first time, and it felt like I was tripping on mushrooms or something, like you're there, and it almost doesn't feel real. Like it feels like prehistoric. It is prehistoric in its own sense, but like you look around and expect to see dinosaurs or 8-foot sloths or like a 5-foot mosquito. It feels so like
euphoric,
so much bigger than you. It does feel euphoric, but it just makes you realize how small you are in the world. With I feel like that almost would be like what space feels like on a different level. Like that, you feel so out of place there, so in a different time, and so unimportant to the grand scheme of things, that it's that like a place like that is just as rewarding for me, even though it's not diverse at all.
100%. And what he's explaining about the redwood forest, how I would explain redwood is, imagine yourself as a worm, earthworm, and you come up above ground in a 2-foot bush. That is gigantic. You feel as a person, if you actually take it in for what it is, the redwood forest makes you feel small.
Yeah.
Like you don't even feel like it's real because it's so big. You drive through a redwood tree in a car.
Yeah.
And you are like, you have plenty of space. It's a tunnel. Yeah. And it's the wildest thing you could ever experience.
I think your mind is so used to,
yourself being big.
Well, it's so used to just putting yourself inside of a scale that you're used to, whether you're big or not. Like I could be next to a skyscraper, but that's normal because like I'm used to the size of a skyscraper.
Yeah, but it's
if I've only seen, but that's what I'm saying. If I've only seen trees that have gotten this big, if the biggest tree I've ever seen is this big, and then this is like 8 times as big, it doesn't make sense in your mind because your mind has already set the scale.
Yeah, 100%. And if you've never been like to Yosemite and the Fire Falls, I got to experience firefalls during.
Did you ever do with everything you've done in your life? Do you ever do much climbing or not really?
I would do it at the gym. I
But
never
no, but I'm
did
saying you've never really
outside.
done.
No.
Yeah.
All the crazy crap I've done, I've never done it outside of really a gym.
Like bouldering and top roping at the gym, but
no, I did a little bit of like sport belaying. I felt really uncomfortable because in all my adrenaline sports, it was like onus, right? Like it's on me if I die. Like, and I'm okay with that.
And climbing's similar if you're like Alex Honnold.
Right, but I'm not Honnold.
No.
I'm not Honnold. So, you know, all of my adrenaline stuff was on my own, right? Like it was, I think that's what scared me the most. It's not that I'm capable, it's the guilt I would have to live with afterwards if I failed. It's me being kind of vulnerable. I think that's what made me nervous the most. All my adrenaline sports I've done, it was on my own. And if I mess up, it's like I pay the consequence, not someone else pays the consequence. Like Vertical Limit, I don't know if you ever saw that movie or any of our viewers. If you haven't, it's a great movie, but it's a great climbing movie too. But it is a very real thing. Like if something goes wrong. And so, you know, that's not the responsibility that I ever wanted to hold.
That's fair.
I don't.
That's fair.
Yeah.
If you're going to recommend a climbing movie, I'm going to then. So I'm going to recommend Free Solo, which is a documentary. But I think it's about Alex Honnold in Yosemite. So I've only ever climbed at a very recreational level. Even you know, sometimes when I was younger and dumber, you know, I Free Solo some, you know, some cliff faces around us that are, you know, 70, 80 feet, which obviously you don't want to fall from that far, you know, get paralyzed, die, whatever. You can have serious repercussions from that far too. But, you know, he's scaling these
El Cap.
Yeah, El Cap
is El Cap.
But yeah, for Free Solo, yes. And it was cool. Like me, Chad George, and my wife, Brittany, we actually saw that in IMAX, like in a real IMAX at a science center when it first came out. Yeah, like my wife's hands are sweating next to me and stuff. Like I like heights and I've never been afraid of heights. So I was just like enjoying it, feeling like you're there. But like the scale that gives you is pretty incredible too. So like being at Yosemite for me, like I know like I have none of the skill set and none of the ability, but like, man, it would be hard for me not to want to at least try to climb a little bit or do that. Cause like, it's so cool. And like, for people that don't know, I forget there's another documentary about climbing in Yosemite from like the beginning ages till now. And it's like, shows you how it used to take them, you know, like 10 days to get up one of the faces and stuff with, you know, drilling their own holes and going up. And then they, you know, then it got to like, you know, the 50s and 60s where people were climbing it on acid and stuff and still taking time and drinking booze to where, you know, the park had to start locking down. And then the climbers were limited to the amount of days that were there. We were having to sneak around and doing it and sneak in to, you know, current day where it's like that. But the skill set, like in everything, has gone up so much that, you know, they can climb like the 3 main faces there in a day, you know, and just crush the records, like free soloing it, let alone.
That's El Cap, Half Dome. What's the other?
I'm blanking right now, so that's why I wasn't saying it. But
I know.
And obviously, there's different routes on all these faces, but like
100%. If you haven't ever seen Free Solo, it's a great documentary. Alex Hahn, fantastic climber. If you've never been to Yosemite,
and like he just has to not have the fear gene, right? Like
he doesn't.
No,
because El Cap is imagine a boulder, but on a unworldly scale, cut in half. It is a true sheer face climb. Alex Honnold climbed it, completely free solo by himself.
And what free solo means is no aids, no ropes, by yourself.
No anchors.
So he's going up with a chalk bag,
yep.
and probably a water bottle, and climbing. And he's
That's
climbing
it.
multiple 1,000 feet in the air, like overhanging with sometimes the finger holds are like, half of a fingernail deep.
Minute.
You're wondering, yeah, like so minute. And like he's climbing past people that are, spending a week to climb up it with ropes and anchors and partners. And he's just cruising by them. and it's just balls of steel, So like,
yes,
it's not only would it be crazily physically taxing, but like we want to talk about something where you can make no mistakes. Like you can learn things from other sports and other endeavors like climbing, because like that is true no mistakes. Like that is a mistake at any point in time in that day leads to his death, and that's the end. And then like you could say I'm being dramatic, but like most of the best climbers ever, ones that free solo at least, die that way. They don't live to an old age because they make a mistake, and that's how it happens. So it's like every time you go out, like when you go out in these aspects, or people that are in our armed forces, fighting wars, things, it's like there's no margin of error, and that's when a mistake has the ultimate consequences. So you have to figure out how to make everything that you're competing in feel like that, even when it's not, because it's your game's ultimate consequence. It might not be life or death, but it is life or death of that instance, of that moment, of that opportunity.
100%. I'm sorry
Before
to
you go on,
viewers, I'm gonna say this, but
Valley Uprising was the documentary I was thinking of, and I recommend that even before free solo, because it's more entertaining and shows the history of climbing in that area, and it's really cool.
I think I haven't seen it, but what I will say about Alex Honnold free solo, it shows you, are you willing to die for your true passion, what you love? And that's something you can take paintball, life, hobby, whatever it may be. And I think it replicates that feeling across your life. So
You're right, but I
what
think it's something you can't think about too, because it's not like
you can't.
I'm willing to die for this. You're just thinking this
Exactly.
is something I care so much about that
Exactly.
I don't care about the repercussions. So you can't ever be like, oh no, I'd be willing to die for this. I'd be willing to this, because you really shouldn't be willing to die for anything except for like,
what
your
you
loved
love.
ones, right?
What you
But
love.
like, yes, what you love, what innately matters, or what innately makes you you, and like what you care about, what you can protect. But when you're talking about like things like that, I don't think he thinks like, oh, I'm doing this and like I know that I can die. He's just thinking like, I like doing this so much. This matters so much to me that I know that I'm could
willing.
die, but I'm not going to allow myself to do that. But I understand that is a risk associated with it.
100%.
It's like getting in a car every day. Driving's probably the most dangerous thing that a regular person does every day.
Every day.
It's dangerous.
100%.
But we need it to get along in a lifestyle that in the 21st century. That's just the way it is. So you don't even think about it. But other people that are afraid of heights, or afraid of this, or or
terrified of heights
about this. It could be anything then, right? It's like you could be afraid of anything, and other people will always project their fears on you. But they're doing something in their own life that's dangerous too. And it's everyone's willing to make their own risks, their own sacrifices. And you just have to figure out what things in life matter the most to you in that way. Because I don't think you should ever live like a safe life, in a sense. Like you should always take risks.
Be rowdy.
You need to be rowdy, because
that's the only way man.
It's the only way you can truly live. If you're not willing to do that, you're just waiting to die. You're living the life that people tell you to live, instead of making.
You're living to die for the day you're in a coffin.
Yeah, there's no,
and there's no reward. There's no reward.
There's no playbook on life. There's just what people tell you the way it should go. But like, you can do whatever you want in your life. You can make it whatever you want to make it.
Yeah.
And I think that's important.
My, you know, I'll rewind this real quick. I'll talk to you about Dean. Sorry for the viewers. I'll talk to you about Dean when we're off camera. Huge, monumental person. But and if you see me in person, I'll talk to you about him. I'll do that. You have to come up to me and ask me about Dean.
Not everything's meant for the internet.
It's not.
That's all.
Because true cherished moments in your life are more beneficial if you can feel someone's passion about what they're talking about. Mm. And when I get to talk about this, it's a true passion. But my wife, now I'll flip it back. My wife asked me when we first started dating, she goes, "What do you want to do?" We've been dating since when I was 27. She's like, "What else do you want to do in life?" I was 27 years old, and I still stand firm in this. She goes, "What else do you want in life? What do you want to do?" I said, "If I die tomorrow," I said, "I'm good."
And I feel the same way, but that's not to say it's like
it's not the end.
I've done a lot of things. That doesn't mean I don't want to do a lot more things. It would mean
100%.
that I'm content knowing that like I live my life to the fullest. But in that, you still have the responsibility to live the rest of it to the fullest too, and not
100%
rest on your laurels, you know.
But it's knowing that you've had such a full life. If you died the next day, what I think is the most beautiful thing when you hit that realization, if you were to die the next day, you would still be happy with what you left behind, what you accomplished, what you did.
Crazy.
And I will tell you, go ahead.
It's crazy because that's the way I've always felt until I became a dad. And
100%.
And now it's like, oh, now I can't. You know, it does change the way you process things because I can't live as selfishly anymore. I can't live with that. Like, I don't want to leave someone, you know, hurt that really relies on you, not just that loves you, but like that needs you. And like, it's the first time in my life, you know, that I've ever felt that way because I've always felt the same way you have, you know, like, kind of lived it selfishly in a sense and not in a bad sense. I think being selfish in your own life is good. It doesn't mean to hurt other people. It means to do things that you know reward you. Like that's what I mean when I say it. It's not to do the norm, but to do the things that truly reward you and fill up your cup. And then like it's how I always thought I'd live. And like, you know, when I was younger, when I was 27, you would have probably asked me and I'd say you know, I wouldn't have said like I was ever going to get married or have kids necessarily, but like incredibly, you know, blessed that that's what my life brought me to. And it did change my perspective. And, you know, when other people had told me that in the past, I had kind of brushed them off or, you know, just maybe not been truly as accepting of what they were saying as what they were truly meaning. And like, that's one thing I did learn. And, it changed my whole perception on that, and was strange.
100%. And I agree with you. The longer you get to live, the more you get out of life.
I do want to say I'd be still fine if, you know, I died suffering. I do think it's not good that like, I think it's the worst when you see people, you know, you want to say like someone dying of old age is a good thing, but man, the years that they suffered before that and stuff is pretty brutal too. So
Alzheimer's, dementia, cancer, you're like
pain, loss of memory, all that.
It's awful, right? And it's almost better. It's easier to go before that comes.
Yeah, that's what's tricky. It's easier, but is it better? Who knows? Because like you aren't in it for yourself. You've created a whole community of friends, family, relationships, people that respect you, people that, look up to you, or take your advice, or that it's a true community. So it's easier, yes, but it's not always better, because one moment after that, like one moment that could truly touch things or change the world for the better, is worth a little bit of suffering. But that moment isn't there for everyone, or might not be there for anyone.
And 100%. And what's funny? I think it was Billy who we had on a few podcasts ago. Death is easy for the people around you when they've had to suffer the most.
Yes.
Because they're ready for your peace. They're ready for your peace. And that's what sucks about this life, is because we can pump you full of drugs and make you live longer. But like, if that person is at peace with their self, life has been fulfilled.
Yeah.
And the journey has been completed. But when you have to sit there and watch someone suffer, you're like, they don't deserve this, because you built that community, you built the friendship, you built the family, you've had this support group that's carrying you when you can't carry yourself anymore. And I think I would rather go, and this is just how I think. I would rather go when I am sound body and mind. And that's harder on the people that love you, because they know you're sound body and mind, right? But when those people that love you have to suffer, and they're ready for you to go, so you're at peace, they're at peace, that's worse on everybody else.
See, when you go, regardless, I think it's always worse on the people that you leave behind. That's the fact of the matter, because you're not there anymore. So the only time it's easier is because they saw you suffering that much before, and then they were ready, or you were ready. Like, that's true. And sometimes that gives someone an opportunity to, hear a story that might be important and change generations' lives down the future. Sometimes it 100%. Lets you reconnect with someone. Sometimes, you need to get to the bottom to fix a wrong that you've done in the past, or to really resonate and be introspective of your actions and fix those things. So for sure, it's easier on you to go sound body, sound mind, harder on the people around you. But also, maybe it's not better. Maybe suffering is part of life. And obviously, this is all morbid talk, but maybe that's important. And maybe what the real important thing is like, not always dwelling on and not always worrying about the unexplained or the uncertain future, because everything's uncertain, like
100%.
Sun could be gone now and we'll find out in a half a second, and we'll all die. But like, we don't know. So it's like, I think the important thing is to live in the moment, be a truly good person to your own morals, touch the people around you in whatever way you can, not worry about what the future may hold, or not worry about death, or not worry about your legacy or what you're going to leave behind, but worry about what you can touch in the moment, what you can help in the moment, where you could impact someone's life, where you could better your own life. And I think if more people, me included, were focused more in the present, then you don't even like think about those other things. And I think it speaks to, the cushiness of our lives now. People might want to complain about things and say that we live in tough times, and in some aspects we live in uncertain times. But to say we live in tough times is crazy to me, because we live in the easiest time. We live in the easiest time that has ever been lived in, which is 100%. Why we have time to worry about all these outer problems that are, involving other people, which are heartbreaking. but they're things that we can worry about because of how easy life is in the present day. It's how connected we are to things, and it's, it's just all putting things into perspective. It's how you want to think about it, but it's like, don't be woe is me about something. Things are always going to be different. Things are always going to change. Things are always going to need adapted to, but man, really look at the past and the things people struggled with, and and had to deal with, and had to put themselves through, and feel grateful with how blessed we are for being born now, and especially us for being born in a country, that promises freedom, whether it always delivers on that or not. It's like, that's the promise, and that's the goal, and that's what we strive to do. So it's like, we were born in one of the greatest times, in one of the freest areas. So take advantage of that and live your life to the fullest, and don't worry about what the future is going to hold, because the future only holds, whatever you make of it.
Yep. 100%.
And I mean that to the fullest extent, because it doesn't matter who you are, but everyone has an opportunity to change the world. One person can come up with an idea that changes the world for 7 billion people, and for every generation that comes after that. So it's like, everyone can impact something. But if you impact one person, that's great. Or if you come up with an idea or a breakthrough that could revolutionize something, that's cool too. But realize that we're all part of, one copacetic thing that we should be working towards, and be appreciative of the time that we're in now, the ability to, be more introspective and have more time on our hands to problem solve, and to, dig into philosophy, and to think about things, and break down why the world works, or how it works, or why it works, and, be happy that we're not an animal that has to, kill and eat something with its face. It's so, no matter what situation you're in, it could always be worse, and it could always be better. So work towards what you want.
100%. Yeah, a lot of truth, realism, practicality in this episode.
It was random. It was random, but
no, it wasn't though. It all tied in. It's such, this whole episode, whether you take the paintball side, we went to the national parks, morality, I don't know if that's the right word, of life. They all tie into each other in a sense where your life is what you make of it. And I think being able to understand that as an individual, it's like what I said from the beginning. My initial ties to heat wasn't to you, but look where we are, and it's what we've made of the situation, the friendship, the ties, the things that become of the future that you don't know, and you can have the persuasion to control those great things. I think this whole episode, if you really tie it into each other, it all makes sense. It's the beginning and the end.
And the time in between while you're waiting for the next whatever.
Yeah, how great are you going to make the journey? What's great is you were there for that conversation. Enjoy the journey from Billy Campbell. If you haven't heard that episode, it was a lot of great things. It was a completely different atmosphere of paintball, but how much does that tie into this? You got to enjoy your journey. And, I'm grateful for my journey. And I was good if I died the next day at 27 years old. I was good with that journey at 24, 25 years old. And I'm so grateful for the moments that I keep carrying on, but you have to accept that to really enjoy the journey and continue on and see what becomes out of it, you know? And so I think those are all, I think, it's funny. It may have all felt random, but if you all break it down, this whole conversation has really tied in beginning to end if you really look at it and listen to it for what it is. And so I think that's the beautiful thing about life, is that you get to choose how your journey begins and how it ends. And that's up to you. So with that being said,
and it might not always go the way you want, but it's your actions that steered it towards the way it went.
Yeah, and how do you take it? How do you improve and make it better? Right? Like, that's what you got to do.
And how you interpret
your
it.
Your bad days can be great days because you've learned a lot from it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's really important, is not to see a bad day as a bad day, but to take it as an experience. So I think, not to get all philosophical, but like, I think it's a truism.
Yeah.
So, it's like going to Yellowstone. I've been to Yellowstone 5 times, and there's always something that amazes me every time, that I'm like, if I wouldn't have been here in this moment, even though I've been to the same place, exact same spot, it's always different.
Yeah.
It's always different. So I think that's the beautiful thing about life. You can be in the exact same moment.
And if you weren't there, would it have been different from if you were there? It's like the butterfly effect to some extent,
No, 100%. Right? You're missing out, even if it's the exact same opportunity. So, I know it's a lot about paintball and experiences, but take that as to life perspective, even if it feels like the same experience, find what makes it completely new in life. So, with that being said, Ryan, I know it's late your time. I don't want to keep you super late, but great conversations. A lot of just fantastical words that have been said, and this kind of shit hits home. I love this kind of shit. So, with that being said, do you have anything to say?
No, I appreciate everyone who's takes the time out of their day to listen, and just having fun on this journey, and I hope everyone else is too. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out to us, and just happy to be here, happy to play my small part in this crazy world.
Amen to that. With that being said, please, huge favor, please go simply click follow on Instagram. Every time we get a follow, it means the world to us. It's truly a step towards the direction we want to go. So that means the world. So if you could do that, go subscribe to YouTube, and you can find us public profile as the Rowdy Ones in Discord. We're going to start asking who you would like as a guest, who you would like as what topic you would like for us to talk about. And
all our conversations are sort of free flowing, but having a base topic to jump off of never hurts. Or if you have questions that ask, chances are someone else will also wants the answer to it. So we'll be happy to answer questions. If you leave them in there, we'll touch on them in the podcast. Like Hal said, subscribe if you enjoy us, if you enjoy our time, subscribe to our profiles and interact with them and help us grow this, and that would mean the world to us, and we really appreciate it.
With that being said, we bid you adieu, and hope y'all have a great night. See ya.